Okay, so today I'm going to answer some of your questions about doing commissions as an artist, and I'm going to divide this into 3 aspects. So the first question I got is, how do I know if I'm ready for a commission? So first of all, you want to have a consistent style and a consistent quality. But what I mean by that is you have to know your style well enough to draw anything your client requires or anything you want to provide. If people were looking at your Instagram as your portfolio and recognize you by that style, you want to draw your commission in that style. For example, you don't want to go into a restaurant and order from the menu and have your meal different from the picture in the menu. So you just want to make sure you can provide everything they ask for in that style. For example, I never used to draw people with beards, but when I started doing commissions, people with beards come asking for me to draw their portrait. So I had to develop the skill to draw beards in my style. So I felt like I wasn't fully prepared in that. So I was a little anxious when people asked me to draw beards, but now I got it, and you should prepare it too. So the second question I got is, what if you can't get it ready on time or if the customer isn't pleased? So I think the most important part about doing commissions is that you have to be ready to be honest and straightforward. Sometimes shit happens and things get put on hold and you just don't have control of situations. But you have to push yourself to tell your clients that you're not ready or you can't do something, even if it might be embarrassing or even if it might come off as unprofessional. But most of the time people will be really nice and be really encouraging, so I wouldn't worry about that. But if you don't want to disappoint your clients, don't tell your clients an exact time. Give them a time range if you're not sure how much time their commission will take, or if you're not sure how many time you will have yet. So the third question is, does doing commissions get boring after a while? Well, this definitely varies between different artists, but I always get very excited when people commission me saying maybe it's a secret gift for their loved one, or when they say they love the commissions. I remember doing a couple's commission for a wedding and when I was starting out, and I was so happy that I got to be a part of that and a part of something so special. So it isn't boring for me, but it might be boring for you if you don't enjoy the process. But I enjoy learning about people's stories and drawing for them and making people happy. So the last question in the art aspect is what to do if your client isn't an artist. And this will happen a lot because of course not everyone who commissions you is going to be an artist, but you can definitely see the difference between regular people who commissions you or artists who commissions you, because people who are artists who have commissioned me will give me the exact color code they want and they will give very detailed reference photos. But people who are not experienced in commissions or doing art might not be able to do that. So when facing these clients, you want to be as helpful as possible. You want to search for reference photos for them. You want to ask them for the color codes if they want a specific color. You want to give them a lot of sketches and options as to provide a full and satisfying experience. Into the technical aspect, the first question is how to get people to buy commissions from you. So there's definitely no way to force people to buy from you, but some ways to make it easier is to make examples. You want to do illustrations how commissions might look like and show it to your audience. You want to look up pictures maybe on Pinterest or Google and imagine that the person you were looking at is your client and draw it how you would commissions. Then you could tell how your skills are and show your clients what they could get. So back to the example with beards, I never used to draw people with beards and I only learned from commissions, and I had to change it to my style. So you want to practice as wide a variety as possible, because you never realize how narrow your range of drawing is until you get commissions and you see how diverse the world really is. The next question is, do you need a contract? Having terms and conditions with your client is definitely better to settle possible disputes. I used to use PayPal invoices, but now I use Ko-fi, and both of them provides terms and conditions. So what you can include in your terms and conditions are whether you would accept refunds, who holds the copyright to the final piece, whether they could use the piece for commercial use, whether they will pay in partial payments, and the number of changes allowed, etc. You want to include terms and conditions or a contract because although there are not many people out there who are like this, but there are definitely people who like to take advantage of people. And although I've personally never had that experience, but I've heard of artists experiencing art theft from commissions or things of this sort, and that's terrible. So you want to have terms and conditions to protect yourself and your client. The next point I want to talk about is personal versus commercial use. Please place your prices higher if your illustration is going to be used for commercial use. For example, music album covers, podcast covers, t-shirt production, other merchandise production, YouTube, Twitch, or other social media platform banners or intro videos. The reason why you want to do this is because you're selling your copyright to the client and they can use it for whatever you use. They're earning money from your piece. So think about it. Sometimes when you listen to music, you scroll on Spotify, an album cover catches your eye, and that's the reason you click onto it. So that's the importance of an album cover and an illustration on the album cover. You're going to have a huge influence on how many reach they get and how many t-shirts they sell. So you want to place them higher if they like your style and they want to hire you to design stuff for them. The last question in this section is, will you do fan art? And this is very simple. Yes, if you're doing it for personal use, for example, if you're using it for your profile picture, or if you're sending it to your friend who really loves a certain anime or a certain movie. But no for commercial use, meaning you can't use it to sell merch like stickers or posters on Redbubble or Etsy, whatever. I don't sell copyrighted things. The next section is payment. What's the best platform for payment? I would say the standard ones are pretty good. Most people use PayPal or Venmo, but it's only available in America. But I would recommend some platforms that requires the client to accept your terms and conditions before paying, like PayPal Invoices and Ko-fi, as to protect yourself and for more clarity for the client. Some artists may be disappointed that payment platforms like Ko-fi, PayPal take a fee if you're using it for commercial use, but if you're using the platform for business, it's better for everyone for you to pay the fee, because you want to build up a good rep and you want to protect your client as well as yourself. Now I use Ko-fi to take commissions because they take both credit card and PayPal and it's easier. They also show terms and conditions and keep track of slots, so I don't have to do that myself. But I've also tried PayPal Invoices, and using my online shop, and they all have taken a fee, so it's not really much of a difference, except Ko-fi does a much better job of tracking everything. The next question is, how much should your time cost? You want to look at the minimum wage where you're living and the prices of artists near your skill range. You also want to look at the demand for commissions. Of course, it's ideal when the price is higher than your minimum wage where you live, but it's a good place to start, in my opinion. And don't forget to count the time you spent communicating with your clients. I used to take a lot of time communicating with my clients, even on weekends, and I unknowingly spent a lot of time responding to their questions and sending them reference photos, and I never kept track of how much time I spent on them, on my commissions, I mean. So now I don't work on weekends and I have a fair payment. The next question is, do you accept partial payments or full payments? I do full payments now, but I've also done half payments in the past. The reason why people do partial payments is because clients might feel more protected if you do partial payments by progress, half before the sketch and half after the sketch. So they make sure the artist isn't going to run away with money once they receive the money and never give you a sketch or anything. Partial payments are also used if you want to calculate your price by the amount of time you spend on the commission. So for example, you will have a base price for a set of commissions, and if you spent an extra amount of time, you want to calculate the price on that, because if your time spent on different commissions differs, this is a good way to calculate your price. But because now I know how much time I will be spending on commissions, I will take full payments up front. The last question is how to come up with a fair price if you're a small artist. So I would say having fair prices is very important, of course, but doing commissions, pricing commissions is more about demand. If you have a higher demand, you want to price them higher, and if you have a low demand, you want to price them lower. The size of your account has nothing to do with pricing your commissions. Big accounts might price them low and small accounts might price them high. It's all up to the artist. Some styles are also better for commissions because maybe they're more simplistic, the style is more fitting for everyone, etc. So everyone's prices are different. It has nothing to do with your account size. But of course, if your account is bigger and more people are exposed to your art, more people are likely to commission you. If you want to use your number of following to price your commissions, you also want to set milestones for yourself to increase your price. Because as time goes by, you will have larger followings and your skill will have improved. So, you want to increase your price to as fair of a price as possible. So the last extra section of the video that I just thought of is the mental aspect, because people might overlook the mental space needed for commissions. So first of all, you want to make sure you have enough mental space to communicate back and forth with your client and be honest about not being on time, or accept that they might not always be immediately pleased with what you're giving them. So you want to have enough mental space to accept that, to process that, and not to take it personally. Another question is, how do you deal with the feeling that you might let the commissioner down? So I saw this post when I was a small account. They said to not worry about this feeling because they commissioned you because they already looked at the art you were doing and they liked it and they want a personalized version of it. And that's a really big step as an artist, people liking your style and wanting a personalized version of it. So I wouldn't worry about that because they already like what you're doing. The last question is, how do you deal with someone who's unsatisfied with what you made? So the first step is to not take it personally. Some people might really heavily doubt their art skills just because they received some criticism or that their clients wanted something changed, but most of the time it's because they wanted something really personal to them and they want really specific changes, and it's not necessarily about your skill set or your taste or you personally. So don't take it personally. That's the first step. And if you can change it, change it. And if they're asking for a super drastic change, you might want to charge them again. For example, if you've already done a very elaborate sketch, if you started lining and coloring and they suddenly want to change something really drastic, you want to charge them again or refuse the change because that's not worth your time. And they could change forever, they could change things forever and you could be spending forever on the commission. So if they're just unsatisfied with, for example, color or a little expression, or if they want to add a little star, you can do it. But if they want a drastic change, discuss with them. Be honest, be upfront, be straightforward, and don't be afraid to negotiate. So as I said before, if they commissioned you, they know what you're offering, and it is very unlikely that they will dislike everything you're offering. Even if they're unsatisfied, it will just be a small percentage, and you just have to change it or talk to them about it, negotiate, and then reach an agreement together. But that's also why it's good to have terms and conditions, because you would have already discussed the numbers of changes you could make to a piece. So in the final, really for real, legit final segment, I want to talk about my experience commissioning people and what I've learned. I started doing commissions because people asked me in the comments whether I did commissions, and I didn't think of opening commissions at first because I was still at school. But also because I was still at school, I didn't have any income ever, and I thought it was really cool if I could have some income and buy a lot of stationery. So that's why I started doing commissions. And because I was under 18, I didn't used to take payments with my own PayPal. I used my mom's PayPal, and I accepted payments in my mom's PayPal. And it was really scary at first because I've never drawn, this is shameful to say, but I've never drawn a really diverse pool of people. I've only drawn Asian because I am surrounded by Asians. I'm Asian, I like drawing Asians, and I like drawing girls, so I never draw boys. But if you're doing commissions, you're going to draw a lot of people of color, a lot of people with different sexualities, sizes, races, what? And you have to be prepared for that, and it is a very good practice. So I priced my commissions quite low when I was starting out because to me it was a really good practice, and I got to draw a lot of people that I wouldn't usually think of drawing. That might also be something you want to consider if you're starting out on doing commissions. Like maybe you're a student, or maybe you have a full-time job but you also want to do commissions and practice drawing a lot of people. Another thing I learned is obviously how you have to be super honest and upfront, because as an ex-student who was doing commissions while she was in school, I wasn't able to keep up with a lot of commissions, so I had to tell my clients that my deadlines have pushed back a lot and disappoint them a lot. But something that I've learned is to tell them a range of possibilities of when I might finish, and also I've learned that most people are very nice and very supportive, and they don't mind if you're late. But don't be late. So of course the best part of doing commissions is this sense of satisfaction, accomplishment when you finish a commission and you send them over and you ask them if it looks okay, and they say that it looks fantastic, it's amazing, I love you, thank you very much for drawing me and my fiance. Oh my god, this is the best thing to hear, guys. Every time I hear stuff like this, I tear up a bit, for real. For reals. Yeah, and when I scroll through my activity notifications on Instagram and I see people using the icons I drew for them, so amazing. And when people want to commission you for their music albums, so good. So I would definitely start doing commissions if I were thinking about opening commissions, which is a position you might be in, because it's so gratifying. It's so gratifying, especially if you're a student, because there's not a lot of things you can do to earn your own money, and using your own money to buy stuff, or just the fact that you've earned your own money, is so amazing. The fact that you can earn money from doing art, which is something you love, is amazing. Okay, some last tips for you guys is that definitely don't let fear stop you from doing commissions, because most people are very nice in this world, and if they're not nice, them, you know, like if you're doing your all and they don't accept that, they should just go do your all and just don't worry about the rest, because assholes assholes will be assholes, and you can never prevent assholery.
That's right.
And that's the tip
for the gays.
No, that's the tip from me to you. So that's everything I've got for you today. If you look back to the beginning of the video, I might be very awkward because I'm not used to being on the camera yet, but at the end I got hyper and weird. So I'm a Gemini, so I might have personality problems. So do not unsubscribe. Thank you for watching. Leave me comments. Like, subscribe. Thank you.
Swipe up.
Turn on bell, swipe up, everything else. Yes.